We are live. All right. Welcome to the first episode of Locust Lyric Focus. That's where we're going to deep dive into the songs and lyrics from your favorite hip hop crew, Shadow of the Locust. Yes, we are going to look at lyrics because words are important, especially in hip hop. Words are the birth of hip hop. It's all about words in hip hop. So tonight, the song is Giving Up. It's on the album that we just released called The Mighty Army Cometh Volume 2. Artist name, if you're going to look up on any music apps, is obviously Shadow of the Locust. And this one is featuring Illustrate, some weird guy named Jeremiah Dirt, and Complex. So if you want to hear it, I'm going to get the links in the description below, and you'll also find the lyrics in the description below. I'm pretty sure right now, so you can follow along as we are talking about it. Let's go. All right. I got the lyricist for the song Giving Up with me right now. Got my boy Complex, and we got my boy Illustrate. What's up, fellas?
What's going on?
What's going on? What's up? Good to be here. Yes, I got my water. What do you got? Some
What are
coffee?
you drinking? No, this is an energy drink in here.
All right.
Nice.
All right. Right now, we just, as a crew, released an album, A Mighty Army Cometh Volume 2. We've been, shortening it down to AMAC 2, so hashtag that up. Hashtag SOTL, hashtag AMAC 2, hashtag super duper fresh hip hop. I don't know if that last hashtag will work, but whatever. So this Giving Up track is obviously the first one on the album. It was obviously written by us three here lyrically. So, you guys, if you want to support, we love your support. We thank you for your support. Look up Shadow of the Locust as an artist name on any of the music apps that you enjoy. And if you buy the album, we appreciate you. It goes right back into making more God glorifying and ministering music. We're already working on the last of the AMAC series, which will be A Mighty Army Cometh Volume 3. So all the support and love helps. At least go listen, at least check it out, at least share it at your leisure. So tonight we're going to be talking about the first track that's on this album called Giving Up. And first, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to go into the sample. We're going to talk about the song before we get to the lyrics. The sample. I produced the track. I don't know I know Plex, you produce. I don't think Illustrate has ever produced anything, right? Illustrate, you don't have a record to your name, do you?
Yeah, no, I produced quite a bit from my own stuff and for a couple other people.
See, I was just trying to throw that out there so that you could get that in. And I know Complex produces. Complex and I recently actually been talking about Complex doing little mini EPs for everybody in the crew. So maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But I get nervous talking about, not nervous, but I grew up old school hip hop, late 90s. So when you talk about samples, man, we used to hide our samples, bro. This is look at my record collection back here, man. We would put like covers on the label so no one knew what we were playing when we go DJ and stuff. So
I know. I was surprised you were going to reveal the secrets.
I'm going to, because this is the Locust Lyric Focus, and we're going to just break open the songs and share everything. So it hurts as a producer, but I'm going to talk about the sample first. So I am a sample-based producer. I enjoy the idea of giving respect to, the architects of our music history and culture. And also, I just enjoy reinterpreting, songs and melodies that I like. So pretty much anything I produce is going to be sampled. I'll tell you straight up for this track, um, I didn't I didn't do too much. I love the original song so much that I just kind of did straight up samples. So the song that was sampled was Close Your Ears Records, was Gladys Knight and the Pips song called Giving Up. And that's back on their self titled album all the way back 1965. So Gladys Pimp, Gladys Knight. When I was a kid, I used to think it was the Pimps. I was like, dang, they're hard. If you know what a pip is, please leave it in the comments because I still haven't figured that one out. But Gladys Knight and the Pips song called Giving Up. Now illustrate.
Yeah.
I got some beef with you right now, bro.
All right, what's up?
It's to my understanding that look, don't play around with me, okay? Because I know that you have a song on your Faith, Love, and Hip Hop album.
Yeah.
Called Giving Up.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
With the same sample and would have been produced at the same time. Are you digging in my crate?
That was actually Salty Beats who did that beat.
Who made that beat?
Salty Beats.
Oh my gosh, bro. So I didn't know that right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
I love that album. I guess I wasn't paying attention, but when I was doing some research on the sample, I was like, I looked in my library. I was all, freaking Illustrate has the song called "Give It." Why didn't you tell me all this, bro? I try to strive for that originality, bro. I was so. Ugh.
Yeah,
not only that, he had to lace it twice. He had to lace that same concept twice too.
That's right. So explain to everybody real quick. I mean, pretty much the same, almost ideas. Big respect to Man of War. He was on your track, Giving Up. Same sample, bro. I was like, golly.
Yeah, that all actually happened about the time. It was right before I had officially joined Shadow of the Locust, and I guess I didn't really. Well, I don't really remember if I recognized it or not, but I thought I had mentioned it to you at one point.
You probably did, but you guys know me, man. I'm so that sometimes I lose information.
Yeah, I think we all get in that mode.
You've been Shadow Locust forever, so what are you talking about, bro? Your Faith, Love, and Hip Hop album was what,
2015, 2016, somewhere in there?
The same time I made this beat, bro. All right, listen, I'm just messing with you. So, this sample has been respected by a lot of artists. If you look up on one of my favorite websites, it's whosampled.com. Type in Gladys Knight, Giving Up song. Reef, The Lost Cause, respected it. This dude, Reef, The Lost Cause with a Z, really underrated rapper. I love that dude. He has a song from 2005 called Give It Up. Internationally, it was sampled by OSTR and Hades, and the way they reworked it was really creative. I'm going to hack this name because it's what language do they speak in Amsterdam? Ari Naui York from 2013, but they sampled the song really creatively. They actually chopped it up and it sounded cool. Mathematics from Wu-Tang Clan used the sample in his 2005 Can I Rise? And I didn't know this, but Lord Jamar of Brand Nubian fame used it in a song called Giving Up.
Of course.
If you guys check it out, when you go to whosampled.com, it'll actually most of the time show you like the YouTube where you can actually listen to it. So his version of it sounds the most like ours. It's just straight up kind of samples. So, hey, just to name a few, I respect, those are the artist names. Obviously, the producers might be different. I didn't look that up, but respect to the producers who used Gladys Knight and the Pips.
We're in good
Giving up
company.
track. Yeah, we're in good company. But it seems like I'm the actual biter in this scenario. So, wah, 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 wah. Um, in my opinion, it in no way takes away from our creativity in the Shadow of the Locust version of Giving Up. So I did slot our Giving Up song for the Mighty Army Cometh 2 album, uh, probably back in 2015 to 16 when I first made the beat. I concepted the idea of our Giving Up song around the Gladys Knight, singing in her original. Her song speaks to like the grief of giving up on love, like a breakup song. My concept was to expand on the idea of how we humans and our human nature bring ourselves to these quitting points with our misplaced good intentions or sometimes like purposeful sins, and we give up on loving each other because of like growing bitterness, apathy, hatred. um, and then also the idea that Jesus also gave up, but on the cross, literally for love lost also. So what's the difference is that our human giving up is like to no avail. It only leads to emotional abuse, cheating, divorce, even suicide and murder. No one benefits when we give up. When we get overwhelmed and the pressure's on and we just give up, it's like it's bad sauce. But when Jesus gave up, concerning his love for us on the cross, he didn't give up on love. He gave up for love, and his giving up was like for everybody's benefit. So that was the concepts for this track. Um, and this idea of human endeavor into love relationships versus God's endeavors into love relationships with us is expressed in the Bible under Romans 5:12 through 15. So look that up. Uh, Basically, we humans tend to break things and it spreads. God fixes things and it spreads. So this song, Giving Up for Us Three Lyricists, is one of the most topical and ministry minded songs on the AMAC 2 album. Um, and it's just a reminder, I hope, that when you feel like giving up, try giving it all up to God. Just take all your concerns and cares and just give them up to God and try to bring some holy help into your situation. So let's get into the concepts and visions of the Shadow of the Locust Giving Up song. We're going to literally, in this Locust lyric focus series, we're literally just going to walk through the song. We'll talk a little bit about the song, and then we'll just go through the sections of the song. So first, we start with the intro. This song, when you listen to it, is going to open up with the intro where I just used Gladys Knight singing "Giving Up," and you're going to hear a movie sample. I never loved you more than when I left you. I had to give up what I loved the most in order to learn to love more. So that's from an old movie called Pontius Pilate, and I can't remember. I can't remember which version because there's a lot of movies called Pontius Pilate. I just remembered that it was a black and white version and it was dubbed. So when I tried to find it, it pointed out to a movie that was from the 50s. So I'm pretty sure that's the same movie, but it's basically Pontius Pilate's wife talking to him concerning, some of the times when they had to separate so he could go do his, government business. And she's just mentioning. So I placed the sample in the song because she mentions giving up what she loves the most. And that tied into in my mind, back to the idea of Christ giving up, his life for us. Specifically, if you guys remember Jesus on the cross crying out, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit, in Luke 23:46. So that's why I put that movie sample in there because it was kind of my way of saying right off the bat, this is what this song is about. So, moving right along, we go into the first verse. So, who's on the first verse? Illustrate. The man right there. Okay, listen, bro. Your verse on this track, which kicks off the AMAC 2 album in like this super powerful way. So I never asked you. I always thought that your verse was about like a breakup type deal, like with a girlfriend or a wife. And for a long, long time, I never asked you or clarified that. So when you say lines like "give grace but receive none," y'all just kept me guessing. And although I've walked away, I prayed that God would make you better. It just reminded me of some of the breakups and hardships I've had, in relationships with females that I love deeply. So I
Yeah.
just always thought your verse was about like a wife or a divorce or a girlfriend, and so I just assumed your lyrics were about that until I clarified with you a couple years ago. I think before the album came out, I
Yeah.
just felt like asking you. So, what is your verse about in this track?
My verse is the short version. It was a very toxic boss that I had. The type of boss, like you say good morning, and he walks up, gets in your face, cusses you out, and literally skips away. So, and before that, like before I had taken this job, I had just come out of a really stressful time of some family stuff. And we had just relocated back to the Denver area. And we're like, man, God has delivered us from this bad situation that just was so overwhelming. Like we did whatever we had to get out of it. So I'm like, all right, I'm stepping into my blessing. I'm starting a new career. And then I start working for this guy. And so this guy, like pretty much anytime I'd see him, I'd catch him in the hall. He would yell at me for something, but never quite tell me what I did wrong. Um, and then I'm sitting there working later in the day, and then I would hear him talk about, when I met the Lord, He really changed my life. Like I used to be involved in this, I struggled with this, and Jesus has just changed me so much. And I would just sit there like, how, what were you like before you met Jesus? Like if this is you now, like what am I dealing with? And it was really an overwhelming situation, especially coming out of something that was really difficult for me personally to go into this situation. And God's like, stay here. And I'm like, I'm trying to deal with what I just got out of. And now this guy is like picking up where they left off. Like, are you sure, God, this is you? And God would just tell me, He's like, pray for this guy. And I'm just like, I don't want to pray for this guy. Like, if I say good morning, he glares at me, he yells at me. Like, I don't know what I did to him. Like, he hired me,
And your first verse too, with you saying that when you told me I was worthless, man, I heard you. You told me I made you nervous. I still served you.
Yeah.
So when you explained to me what your verse was about, it just bonked me in the head. I was like, and it really tripped. I really admired you almost even more than I already do, because for someone to take a boss and employee situation and make it so deep and powerful, man, I give you a lot of respect for that.
Appreciate
your
that.
verse was already just super impressive to me. And then I'm like, man, this dude wrote about a boss and employee relationship and made it that freaking dope. So complex. When you first actually heard Illustrate's verse, what did you think about it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just, it is really like you run into these situations where you're around people, and they have these, like, I don't know, these kind of, I guess, the disingenuous type of thing. And it's this situation where you have to be like honorable in a place where you're not being honored in any way, shape, or form. And he really goes in, Illustrate really, you go into that, pretty deeply. And it kind of reminds me of like kind of like David and like what he had to go through,
Mm-hmm.
not like dishonoring the throne, even though the throne was dishonoring him, basically.
Yeah.
It just made me think a lot about that kind of thing. So, I mean, and I think we've all been in situations like that where we're misunderstood, or like when you go into the situation and there's automatically like a wall there, like they're already defensive against you.
Yeah.
And you don't really have, you even say that in the lyrics, like I didn't even have a chance, like
Yeah.
and it's like, man, it's not a fun situation to be in. And to the concept of the song, it's like, well, it's so easy, to be tempted basically to give up in a situation like that and just be like, tell your boss off, or be like, I
Yeah.
quit, or there's so many routes you can go, but instead you served and honored him the best you could. I'm sure, as humans we're not perfect, but you
Yeah.
did what you could, and that's what we're really supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And that
Absolutely.
was definitely the biggest encouragement of, I think, Illustrate's verse in this song, is that here's a dude getting beat up, beat up, beat up, but he's still willing to say, I want to kind of punch you out, but I'm not going to. That's really, in my opinion, that's really the strength of Christ on the cross, is that you remember that point where it was like, I could call down legions to pull me off of this, but my true strength is if I endure this for my love for everyone. So, in that aspect, I think, Illustrate really drove home the idea of the song. Uh, Illustrate, was it hard to share like such a deep part of your life on these lyrics?
Honestly, I needed to, because it was something I'd internalized so deeply. Like that whole work experience on top of the previous trauma, it was just building on top of each other. And it was putting me in a really bad headspace to where I'm like, God, I'm really trying to follow you. But every time I turn around, like people are just coming against me in the worst way. And I have no idea what's going on. And what I learned from it is God would just say, you know what? They're persecuting you. They're coming at you. Pray for them. And I'd be like, I don't want to pray for them. I'm like, I just want to unload it and clap back at them.
Hand to hand combat
Yes.
for us believers is this.
Absolutely. But like, as I was there, like, I didn't leave that job until God told me, okay, it's time now. And I was there for like another 4 years, and every boss I had, like, I had all these weird issues where they just treated me like I couldn't be trusted. And I'm like, I don't know what I did to any of you. I'm just trying to do my job and figure out what I'm supposed to do. But I just, tried to get along with people as best I could. And the guy, the main boss that was giving me such a bad time, like after I quit, he ended up falling out of a truck and getting injured. And God gave me such a grace for him at that point. He's like, he needs your prayers. Like, pray for a full recovery for him, because he's kind of, from what I understand, he's struggled with being able to do everything he used to do with his mental capacity, because the guy was ridiculously intelligent. And because of the injury, he's struggling in some areas. But since that point, God has just challenged me, like, pray for a full recovery for this guy. And
that's a challenging thing, I think, for any of us in our faith, is to pray for someone that, especially for me, someone that even if it's someone that you loved, or I'm thinking of my mom, I'm thinking, of exes that I've loved deeply, but it gets to some weird point where they come out more, not directly, but as an enemy. It's hard for us to pray for our enemies, and or at least the people that we perceive, whether it's, real or not, that we perceive as out to get us. It's hard when the Holy Spirit says, hey, stop what you're doing, and instead of doing these ideas, pray for them. So when you looking back on the track, do you have a favorite line that you wrote, a lyric that is kind of stands out to you?
As far as my verse, it's really the last one. I gave up my right to hate you, but I won't walk with pretenders. For me, that
Woo!
it's. I understand that we're all in different levels in our faith walk, but sometimes we have to understand, like, we have to love people from a distance. And for me, like, writing that in a song, like, so much weight lifted once I actually said it out loud. And like, even listening now, like, I can hear like how difficult that was to do that verse.
You can make me
But
cry, bro. I gave up my right to hate, man. That's to me, that's pretty profound, man. That's pretty crazy.
because I learned,
It's one of those
you know,
lines where like it's just a couple words, but it just expresses this whole universe of thought.
yeah, like God was just challenging me. He's like, "Do you love me enough to forgive him?" It wasn't like God was saying what he did was okay, but he's like, "Do you love me enough to forgive him?" Because I realized through all the stuff I had been through, like, I was such a wreck inside myself that holding on to that grudge against him was just going to keep me a mess.
I was
And
hurting you.
yeah, and I was never going to heal and be who Christ wanted me to be if I was still carrying all of that.
All right, listen, before we move on, guys, again, we're talking about the song Giving Up, which is on our new album, A Mighty Army Cometh, Volume 2. Look up the Shadow of the Locust artist name on any of your favorite music apps. If you guys could go into your settings and where you wrote your names, if you want, you can put like a website or something. They got a new feature in StreamYard where you can kind of put like a little website under your name. So if you want, see how I have Father Locust under mine. That's if you guys want. I would love for people to know where to go to check out your ministry and music efforts more. But you can always go to locustfist.com and you're going to see the whole crew. You're going to see us three there. You're going to see the rest of the crew. So moving on in our song, we hit the first chorus. In the first chorus is just Gladys Knight again, singing "Giving Up," and I think I added a little bit of emotional backups to that aspect. My infamous croaky voice, I call it my emo voice. Then we get into the second verse, which is by no
Jeremiah Dirt.
Mr. Jeremiah Dirt, to some the nefarious, to some the infamous. Fine. So, all right, gentlemen, look, it it was a tough one for me to write. Honestly, I think I think if I remember correctly, that I had sent you guys the track with my verse already on it.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think if I remember correctly, Complex got it last, so he might have had both of our verses first. Yeah. No.
Something like that.
That sounds right.
I got them all though.
Yeah, I think so. So what were your guys' impressions of my lyrics when you first heard them?
Well, first and foremost, you kind of like you did at the beginning of this video as well. You contrast the difference between Jesus giving up as opposed to us giving up, and focusing on the limitless aspect and how it's almost like when we give up, it's kind of like it's a bit pitiful, to be honest, compared. But at the same time, God does stuff with broken people, and it's a lot of times we're driven to that place because God's not trying to he's not necessarily trying to have us do a whole lot of everything. He's trying to do something through us, Yeah. So that being said, though, when it comes to your lyrics, to me, this sounds like a very personal journey in your lyrics. And, I hear like betrayal, I hear being misunderstood. I just hear a lot of like bitterness, things like that. Another thing too is like feeling out of control to the point where like there's this one verse where you're like, provoking inner choking that never stops outer exploding. Like what?
Yeah. I mean, you guys know I love the double, triple, quadruple rhymes, but when I you bringing it up, and it reminded me when I strung those words together, I was just like, wow, that really expresses, how I have felt sometimes in my life, like you're saying. It just doesn't seem to stop. The
Mhm.
world just keeps attacking and attacking, and every time you try to get a little breath, your mouth is at the water, and you can maybe get a breath, and something pushes you right back under. That's where that
Yeah.
line comes from.
And it's like too also like this whole thing of like you're being provoked, and it's like that thing where like people like say like a little kid is like poking the dog, and he keeps poking the dog, and you're like, you better be careful, that dog's gonna bite you. He just keep poking the dog, and then the dog bites, and then you get mad at the dog, and it's like that's what I get from that a lot.
How about illustrate? Was I did I
Yeah,
do
like,
good?
yeah, dude, I love your
Was it all
verse.
whack?
Nah, dude, it's fire. Like, I was going through it before we started the broadcast here, and like I've heard the song a ton of times, and it never really caught the depth of your verse until I actually read it. And then it was just like, oh wow, this hit me on a whole other level, because you could feel like, dealing with issues of depression, just feeling overwhelmed, like you can't trust anybody. It all just shines through, and I'm like, man, I can totally relate to that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what I've always loved about the way you write is it's personal. It's not all just like super MC metaphors and this and that. But you're a very relatable person, and it always shines in everything you write.
I think I always tell people I either write very testimonial lyrics or I battle your mother. There's
Yeah.
like no there's like no in between, and sometimes you might get a little bit of a combination, but that's literally all Jeremiah Dirt writes. Did you illustrate? Did you have a line that stuck out?
Um, yeah, I had a couple where like lose all focus, feel no one else notice at all, feel like taking yourself off the block, get them to take note. Hope if you blow off the top, like that was just like, man, I have felt that before.
That's the lie of suicide, is that if I do this, then everybody will take note of the hurt.
Yeah.
And really, you just want people to take note of the hurt. You don't really want to blow your head off or split your wrist. You just want people to take note of the hurt. And just to interject real briefly, that's why it's important to go to God with this stuff, because God does take note of your hurt. So it's awesome to have you recognize that line. So
it's just crazy how it didn't really I got the full impact of that line like as I read it. Like I've heard it in the song, and sometimes you just get used to hearing stuff, but like when I actually read it and got to break down the verse, it was just like, oh man, this hit me on a whole other level.
Isn't that the beauty of hip hop? I mean, secular or Christian, whatever the faith is, you never fully admire a song until you actually read the lyrics or give disgrace to a song. Sometimes you're bumping a track and then you look at the lyrics and you're like, oh my God. You're like, I'm sorry, Lord. I did not mean to enjoy that. But that's the whole point of this Locust Lyric Focus series is, taking our tracks and trying to expose and express the lyrical content. So for me, it was definitely emotionally taxing to write this verse, because obviously I jumped right into this highly charged, overwhelming moments of like emotions that of deep depression and pretty much suicidal ideations. It's something I've struggled with all my life. It's something that I still am tempted to struggle with at times. So it was easy to have the concept, but obviously it's hard to write these kind of lyrics and then know that you're going to expose your weakest moments or mental struggles to everyone. In my verse, I am referring to my own experiences with love lost, being cheated on, trying best to reconcile, but to no avail, feeling like a failure to my children and my significant other, and just feeling like if I give up, it'll be better for everybody else, which, like I mentioned, is the very lie of suicide. So, in all that, I kind of look back at my lyrics, and the ones that stand out to me is, like you said, illustrate the last line. Because, yeah, a lot of people struggle and have these dark moments. But I think, like you, it's that last line, which is our glimmers of hope. We're not trying
Yeah.
to do dark, 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 and then leave you with nothing. We're trying to
Yeah.
give you. And so my last line was, so I choose to give up on giving up, to God surrender my hands up, which was the whole point of the song. I'm going to give up, like you said, illustrate. I'm going to give up on hating, and that was the whole point of the song. I'm going to give up on giving up, because every time I give up, it leads to depression, anxiety, suicide, murder, murderous thoughts. It's just all bad. I'm going to give myself up to God, to Yeshua Christ on the cross, and trust in His kind of giving up. So I'm going to give up on my giving up and give up on God's give. I don't know. You know
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's like it is the huge, like, kind of big theme here is surrender, because, like, you look at, and actually it's not exactly in my verse, but in Illustrate's verse it's there, like he's surrendering to God's plan. God's plan is high, God's thoughts are higher than ours, like he's surrendering to God's plan. In this verse, Dirt is surrendering, like, his whole everything to, like, well, I mean, I'm not gonna take myself off the planet. I'm gonna have to go wake up tomorrow and go to work and, like, choke down this real life stuff that I hate so much, because I'm surrendering to God's plan, because I know that's what He wants, and that's hard. Sometimes, surrender isn't easy.
So because just to stay on the topic for a couple more seconds, is when I've struggled with suicide, guys, it's literally my mind in a depraved state, in a very demonically influenced state, is able to deduce that this whole world's existence without me would be better for you guys as my friends, for my family, for my coworker. Just like my mind gets so demonically influenced that I am the center of the problem for everybody. Now, biblically speaking, if you're struggling with that, even right now as you're listening to this, that's actually not true. When God gave the first basically curse in the garden, He didn't say, "Hey, woman, you ate the apple. You're the worst." Hey, dude, you didn't. You followed the woman. You're the worst. His first judgment was against the demonic, was against the Satan, the enemy, the demonic. God knows who the real enemy is, guys, and it's not us, or else Jesus would not have given up. When Jesus says, "Into your hands I commit my spirit," that is literally the equivalent of saying, all these ideas I have, Lord, all these desires I have, I trust you, God, with them. I'm sitting here on a cross dying. Seems kind of crazy on some levels, but I trust the plan that we came up with to repair relationship with these squishy little, pinkish humans. So, moving along in our giving up song, giving up. We go into another chorus after my verse. Again, you're going to hear Gladys Knight, singing "Giving Up," and then this time you're going to hear a movie sample. This one was a stretch in a way, because I was watching at the time Twilight Zone, the old Twilight Zone series, and it just literally, I remember when I was making the beat and trying to work it out, but I was like, this one, it works though. The devil is all around us. Everywhere we go, if we don't fight and we don't stand up to him. So it just reminded me of the verse I just spit and what I just said, how demonically influenced you become when you feel like giving up as a human, when you're stressed out and you're relying only on your own human strength, you get so demonically oppressed. And so here's the sample. This was from the old Twilight Zone, TV show, 1963, fourth season, episode 1, and it was a show called In His Image. So then you hear a guy's voice come in and say, I'm sure you're right. And then she goes, oh, I know I'm right. And I'll tell you. Right. And then Complex, bro, to me, it was like, here's Dirt's verse. The devils are all around us and we got to fight. And then here's, some guy saying, I bet you're right. And she's going, oh, I know I'm right. And I'll tell you how. And I cut the sample right there because it was the perfect segue into the third verse, which is da 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 da. Wait, this was Complex. Okay, Complex, listen. Bro, I know I told you this before. I know I've mentioned this to you, but you probably think, oh yeah, the dude's just saying that because he wants me to, do some more lyrics on some other song and use me, abuse me, and not send me my royalties. By the way, none of us are getting royalties, so
True.
Joke.
We are royalty. We don't need royalties.
Well, our royalties is Shadow of the Locust works by one financial principle. The pay is horrible, but the retirement is great. So we're working off of that. We just make the music because we love you guys. Complex, Listen, I have heard many great lyrics from you. You have a very distinct monotone, guru from Gangstar, type of flow. Your lyrics are, I have been impressed with how much you've grown as an MC all the way back from the late 90s when you first came to this crew. It was kind of rough back then because you were just, I don't know if you were starting out, I can't remember, but it was rough. But I quickly was impressed at the way you just kept growing and going and growing and going. Okay. But no freaking joke. When you sent me your verse here for this Giving Up track, I was immediately struck with the very hard opinion that these were the best lyrics and my most favorite that I've ever heard from you.
Yeah.
First off, the way you spit them, your rhyme patterns were so on point in this track. You were just hitting all these pockets, technically, which makes a listener's ears just kind of perk naturally because you're just uniquely hitting these rhyme pockets. Then your emotion. I have never heard, I think I'm a monotone rapper like you, but I have never heard you specifically be so emotional in your lyrics on this track. You had such, or you have such a vibrance and you're so charged as you're, spitting these lyrics. And you express like such real concern as you rap these lyrics. And then there's the actual lyrics. Right off the bat, it's like you see all the troubles of your homies, us, in the Locust crew, right off the bat, you're talking about, I wonder why we ain't slain. One of the lines that always stuck out to me, as you notice all these evils that are attacking all your friends, lives. You say, yeah, we set for Zion, but the sin has crept inside. And it's like you're stating all of our love for God, but our struggle still with the human sin nature, which, by the way, that line right there is one of those ones where you just hit those pockets so nice. And my favorite lyrics of yours in this track is that when you say, Satan's got his aim scope pointed at a locust throat. If he can't kill us, he'll make sure what we wrote can't be spoke. Woo! So our whole purpose as lyricists and especially MCs in hip hop is words. And for us MCs in the Locust crew, our specific mission and vision is that our words would encourage, the listeners, through a gospel or through a testimony, even some of the non-topical songs where we're just having fun, but we still want our words to be encouraging. And here's Complex in his verse expressing this idea of how the demonic not only attacks you guys, but the demonic specifically attacks you where your gifts are. Come on now. I mean, Complex, that is, to me, you guys know I love studying biblical, demonology. To me, you expressed in that line one of the most profound aspects of the ways that the demonic operates. They not only attack, because you could be like, oh, it felt evil, it felt bad, I felt attacked. But you got to realize that you specifically, whatever your gifts are in your life, the demonic picks those things and attacks even more specific in that area. So here's Complex basically saying, we're MCs, our gifts is words. We hope to encourage, but how can we encourage if we succumb to and give up because we're so attacked by the demonic? So, bro, you blew me away with your verse, and it's not a smoke blowing thing. I love your verse. This is by far my favorite Complex verse. Illustrate, when you first heard Complex's verse on this track, what did you think?
I was bugging out, to be honest. I was just like, whoa, what is he doing? Like, I agree with Dirt. Killed it, dude. You shut it down. Like, and I'm not saying that just to say it. Like, the way you hit it with call it joy, call it pain, when the B-boys reign, just going with the beat, I was just like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. And then, like, when you talk about watching everybody struggle with different things, like, I can relate to that because I know what it's like to be a part of a movement that you love, and you love the people that you're working with, and you're watching them struggle. Some of them are getting involved in stuff they shouldn't be in, and you're like, no, come this way. And they're like, no, I'm good. And like, you can't do anything to stop it other than pray for them and just hope for the best. So like your verse it resonated with me. And yeah, like just the way you came at it brought the song to the perfect conclusion.
Yes, it did. It's like it culminated with
Yeah.
Complex's verse perfectly. Did you Illustrate have a specific line that was your favorite?
Yeah, you actually already mentioned it here when you said Satan's got his aim scope pointed at a locust throat. Yeah, that was the one that was like, oh, that's crazy. I got you.
Complex, your verse really encouraged me because, coming off of that line that Illustrate and I are referring to, I felt like I wasn't struggling alone. I felt like my friends saw me, and I felt like you took notice of my trials and tribulations, all of ours. But as a listener, hearing that from you, it made me feel noticed and that I'm not alone. I'm about to tear up, man. Let me go get a Kleenex over here. It really made me realize the strength that we have as friends. Personally, right here between us three and the rest of the Locust crew, but also as a when I listen to songs, I like to sometimes separate and act like I'm just a listener, never hearing this song before, and even as in that aspect, I'm listening to a lyricist spit these lyrics that makes me feel noticed, and that's so important when you feel like giving up. That's the thing that stops a suicide. That's the thing that stops a apathetic induced or hate filled induced murderous, event, is when somebody takes notice and says, hey, it's going to be okay. Let me help you. And that's how I, felt when I listened to your verse. So Complex, what inspired you, to write these lyrics?
Man, well, as you guys have been saying, this I feel like each verse is actually very emotional. I feel the same way when I hear this, and it's kind of crazy because it's like it's so wrapped up in Shadow of the Locust history as well. And
Yes.
one thing, like you, and I appreciate the compliments on the lyrics and everything. Wow, it's like crazy to even hear that stuff. But one thing that I remember a long time ago, you talking about my journey as an MC, like I remember a long time ago having a conversation with you or something. I can't remember if it was on the phone or through email or what, but specifically, Dirt, you said, your stuff is dope, Plex, but it wasn't even but it was like, but listen, you just got to pack your punch, you just got to pack your punch. You got to make every lyric count, and I always remembered that since then, and I've tried to do that since then. And even with this verse, it's like typically a verse on a track like this is 16 bars. This one's 12 bars. Like I said what I needed to say, and that was all I needed to say.
And you guys know that I'm always teaching you guys cater to the song. Don't write 16 if it don't feel like 16. And
Right.
I'm just interjecting, but golly, bro, you packed the freaking punch, bro. Yeah.
So I mean, and the thing is too, so the whole thing is like when we get into the lyrics of this, it's like this stuff is like, I mean, I've been a member of Shadow Locust for I think around 20 years. Like right after the second Dirt album came out, like it was not long after that.
So that was in 2000, so 23 years, bro.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And so like I've seen the backstage of how things are happening, and I mean this, when I say like what, like where is it, like now this member's overdosed, that member's on the ropes, I'm reading suicide notes, it's not a joke. Like I put that it's not a joke on purpose because
it's not
these are joke. Real actual things that have happened. Like this is not like a game. And that's the whole thing, is like, the whole thing with like that Satan's got his aim scope pointed at a locust throat. Like you mentioned it, like that he's shooting at the gift. The thing is like we're all just vessels. Like there's nothing special. I mean, God loves us all, and we're all special snowflakes and all that, but like like there's nothing special about what we're doing with as being lyricists and stuff. Like there's a message that God's trying to get through the cracks of these broken individuals. Like that's the message. Satan's not trying to destroy our gift or trying to destroy us for our sake. He's trying to destroy that gift because he doesn't want that gift getting out. And he doesn't like that God loves us so much. That's one thing that I've learned throughout the years. Like, and so just seeing God, like, I mean, the devil like ransack us, and in a lot of ways we've still survived, but there has been kind of not like death casualties, but there's been like almost like casualties and stuff. And it really is emotional to look back and think about all the stuff. There's a lot of great stuff, but there's also stuff where it's like there's real pain there, and that's why I started it that way. Call it joy, call it pain. When these b-boys rain, I'm looking at, and then it flips. I'm looking at my crew. I wonder why they ain't slain. Like it's just it's been hard to watch, hard to be not just as an outsider, because I'm not an outsider. I'm also have had things in my life that have been destroyed, and gone through some things. And so, and the thing is, I actually always felt a little bit bad about ending it on such a dark note, because like, I was like, is there like, I'm like not leaving it with much hope, but I love what Dirk does. He comes in and he's like, when you're at this point, when you're at this very point, like, give it up to God. This is the time you need to look to God, and I love that you came in after that and did that,
A lot of times you guys know that I'm mostly responsible for the last kind of parts of the song, the post-production, the mixing, the deciding, like you're mentioning, Flex, is this how this song ends, and our lyrics in this track, or if you just took the lyrics alone and decided what goes towards a positive or a negative messaging, our verses are mostly on the downside. They're mostly depressing, and it's almost like we just end. But I just want to interject to any Christian lyricists, no matter the music genre, you don't always have to worry about getting these full stories in every single verse. You know, you can creatively do it in the movie samples or the choruses, or just get your heart out, get you what God directs you to write, get that out, and then start working the track together. And that's where it leads from Complex's verse down to the outro chorus. And so in the outro chorus of our song, Giving Up, you're going to hear Gladys Knight again, singing Giving Up. And then I felt the same way, Plex, that how can we end this on an encouraging note, right? And so, of course, croaky voice Dirt comes out with this emotional emo inflections, and I'm just basically, encouraging the listener to not give up on life, but to give up on not give up on God. But we explained the concept, to give up everything and trust God. So you're going to hear a last movie sample, which when you guys listen to the track, it's actually my favorite. I love this movie sample. No, you mustn't give up all hope yet. And then another lady goes, who are you? And then I cut it right there. I love that sample because when I heard it, I interjected it because it just reminded me of basically the Holy Spirit stepping into the situation. How many times does God step into your moments of giving up and say, wait, don't give up yet. Don't give up on hope, which is literally an attribute of God, a characteristic of God, not Satan, but of God. And here's the Holy Spirit going, wait, don't give up hope yet. I got something, but God, or Romans 8:28, know. And so this sample comes from I watched a 1960, it's like an Italian horror movie, but it was dubbed into English. So I watched the English version. If you guys go watch it, it's hilarious watching it because, the lips, Italian and English don't, it's off. The original Italian horror movie is called Seduc, the Heir of Satan. And even though there's no vampires in the movie whatsoever, the English release is called The Adam Age of the Vampire, or I think it might be Adam Age Vampire. So the plot of this movie is that an exotic dancer, a beautiful lady, she gets disfigured in a car accident, and her face gets all and it's funny because it's a black and white movie, so it's like they just put clay on her face. It's just right here in the cheek. It's not even that big. It's almost like, girl, go ahead with yourself. You keep going. But she's just, horribly traumatized by her physical beauty being destroyed. And when she's in the hospital, she literally at this point of where I took this movie sample, she wants to give up so bad that she I can't remember why she has a gun in her purse, but she just pulls out a gun from her purse, and she's literally about to, shoot herself. And all of a sudden this lady busts in the hospital door and goes, wait, you mustn't give up on hope yet. And she goes, who are you? And so to me, that lady that busts in the door just reminded me of the Holy Spirit. Who are you interjecting hope into my hopeless situation, So, you can go watch the movie. I found out that it's free on YouTube. If you look it up, it's called Adam Age of the Vampire. It's a fun little old black and white movie to watch. But it just reminded me of the Holy Spirit coming in. Man, guys, what a song, dude. What a song, man.
It's crazy that that's the first song of the album because it's like so, like, it's just bam, like serious, like serious. That's like one of the most serious type of songs, and like it just hits you. But it's like, I know how you picked these the how which song comes next, and it's not really our choice exactly, and
So what we did, just to explain, what we did with the AMAC series, guys, is we had this idea to do all these songs, and there were some, I forget who was like, wouldn't it be cool if it was all alphabetical order? That turned into like 70, 80 songs in the beginning that we split, into thirds. And in the beginning, we were working all over the place, and that wasn't working out well. This is going back, like a decade ago. So then we started focusing on volume 1, A through whatever. This is volume 2. So what Complex is expressing is that we all didn't have necessarily a direction in what order the songs were. Giving Up is alphabetically the first song on this album. That's a God thing, not us. That was us 10 years ago going, let's just go in alphabetical order. And then the album got split, and Giving Up just happens to be the first song on this album. And like Plex, like you're saying, it's just a really powerful start to this album.
Yeah.
Man, I'm proud to be on this track with you guys, man. Honestly.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's awesome. We are real hip hop heads, guys. Shadow Locust crew, real hip hop head. We love the Lord. We love the Bible. Like Complex was saying, we go through our struggles, like the song is expressing. We go through our giving up, quitting points. But we love hip hop, and as a culture, and we love interjecting our faith. And so this track is just really a topical. We can write our non-topical, just having fun type of tracks, and we'll get into some of those on these Locust lyric focuses. But for this one, it was just a really awesome introduction to the Mighty Army Cometh Volume 2. Oh, I'm not. That's not. Anyway, inside joke. Dirt don't have a finger, and it always looked like he's flipping people off. We, us three lyricist writers, just hope that this song contains lyrics that obviously dip into the hardships and loss and of our life experiences, but that it encourages listeners, you as a listener, not to give up on the good things of life, not to give up even when things are so hopeless that it seems like there's nothing good there. God is good. The scripture says that God is good, so there's always going to be something. Don't give up. If you have to give up by giving everything up to God. Don't give up. Finish the sentence basically, and in faith give up to God. Let God give up and take your life, and interject that holy help. So we want you guys to get the album. I think I have a slide of the video cover here. Let's see. Yeah, that's the album cover. Shadow the Locust as the artist name. A Mighty Army Cometh Volume 2. This track, Giving Up, that we've been discussing, is the first song on that album. Please at least listen to it. If you support it, it all goes right back into making more music for you guys. No one in this crew makes money off of Shadow of the Locust. We all put in and just put it right back into the next album. If you don't, purchase it, we still love your support. We love that you're listening. And all we ask is that, you just share the album. Tell some other people about it, especially this song. You can go to YouTube and find this song alone and, share it with people, share the lyrics with people. So, you guys got any closing remarks?
Well, I mean, like you guys have said, like I do feel like it's always a blessing just to work with the Shadow Locust fam anyways, and it's a blessing to be on this track. It's kind of cool. I agree. It's really cool that Illustrate like sets off the album, because it's just like, to me Illustrate you've been like, even though like at times earlier you weren't like like necessarily in the group, like to me you've kind of still really been in the group. You've always been in the circle, you know. And it's funny
that.
because I remember when Dirt was talking to me about like bringing you into the group and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, why isn't he in the group already? Like,
It
like
was
he's
one of those.
Thank you.
It was one of those. Wait, he's not in. Oh, duh. So we invited him in officially, even though for decades he had been a strong supporter and Locust affiliate, and we just jumped him. You know, you have to endure 11 minutes of a solid beatdown from the crew, and you're in, dude.
I remember, you and I hadn't talked for a little bit, and then one day you called me. We were just catching up, and then out of nowhere, you're like, "So how come you never asked to join Shadow of the Locust?" And I was like,
I thought I was.
No, you stopped me dead in my tracks. I was just like, "It's that easy."
It is that easy.
Yeah,
we've definitely cleaned up the ranks a little bit, and sometimes we have struggles, like in your verse complex on the song. You know, people unfortunately falling away to addictions or just backsliding so hard that you can't really, continue in a official capacity. You know, and all of us have had those moments. This crew has been going on from. I got signed to Rescue in '94, and almost immediately concepted the Shadow of the Locust crew. You know, went to me and Seven Lock. You know, Man of War was a strong affiliate back then. You know, and it just blew up from the late '90s. So this crew has really gone through a lot, and that's why you're getting these powerful lyrics. You know, but yeah, Illustrate. You're right, Plex. You know, Illustrate was always like, wait, he's not official. Well, bring him on over. So. Let me end this up. We're going to close this out. You know, this is our first Locust lyric focus, so I hope you guys enjoyed and got fed off of that. We're going to do some more. Some of them will be shorter. Some of them might be longer when it comes to songs like this that are more topical and ministry minded, and maybe even do a couple shorts that are just one-liners type of things. But just look it up. You know, the Locust lyric focus, where we as a Shadow Locust crew dip back into our discographies, not just as Shadow the Locust artist name, but all the members that are within that crew, which you can find out who's in the crew officially, who got jumped in and beat down by going to locustfist.com and checking it out. And I'm just going to end it out by showing you this cool outro that features artwork from our boy, Complex here. So if you like the vibe, subscribe. If you care, share, and we would love to hear your opinions and comments on this song. You can find the lyrics in the description, and please add your own comment, share your favorite line, or tell if you think it's doo-doo. I mean, we could take some constructive criticism. So this is Jeremiah Dirt, with Shadow Locust crew, with Complex and Illustrate, representing for that A Mighty Army Cometh Volume 2 song called Giving Up. And this has been Locust Lyric Focus. Shalom, me homies.